5'9" with the real red eyes, and we dying inside. Ooh, bodies in fluoride.
What is good, y'all? This is JV here, and I'm back with another album review for you guys. We're getting into Drake's Views today. Really excited about this one. We have a lot to unpack here. This is a big album, you know, dropped not too long ago, and I really wanted to sit with it, live with it, give it a lot of listens before I went ahead and did a review for you guys. So I'm finally, you know, glad to get back to these album reviews. So let's start getting into it. This is his 4th studio album, if I'm not mistaken. Thank Me Later, Nothing Was the Same. We have Take Care, out of order, and now Views. We had the So Far Gone EP, and then if you're reading this, It's Too Late, along with What a Time to Be Alive. So he has quite an extensive discography, and I wasn't sure what we were going to get on this particular album. He announced the title of this about 2 years ago. I guess it's about 2 years in the making. And you know, from a recent interview I listened to, he really does, you know, consider If You're Reading This Is Too Late as, you know, a mixtape. So, you know, up until I heard him say that, I didn't really know what to treat it, whether it was an album, whether that was his sound, or whether that was kind of just a tape of throwaways. I didn't really know. But as of right now, you know, I consider myself quite a big Drake fan. I've enjoyed everything he's put out so far. I don't think there's been a full Drake project that I have disliked, even going back all the way to his mixtape days, that I actually quite enjoyed, you know, even though his sound was completely different. And you know, Views, man, really interesting album, gotta say. I do like it, but I think that there's a lot going on here, and what I mean by that is, I don't think this is an album for segment Drake fans. And what I mean by that is, I think this is an album that would be most appreciated by people who know Drake's complete journey and his influences. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of people who jumped on maybe from the Hotline Bling back-to-back kind of wave. I know there's people who jumped on to, you know, off the Future bandwagon on What a Time to Be Alive. There's people who kind of jumped on If You're Reading This Is Too Late, when he was having all those radio bangers. And then there's people dating back all the way to, you know, Thank Me Later or Take Care, you know, with Marvin's Room. Yeah, I jumped on, you know, So Far Gone about 09, when that EP came out. That's when I started listening to him. So I've got to see him, you know, grow throughout these years and become the artist he is today. And I feel like with this album, we're literally getting all of Drake. And what I mean is that there's different kinds of Drakes, you know what I mean? There's R&B Drake that we saw a lot during the Take Care days, and the Nothing Was the Same too. There's Trapper Drake that we've seen this past summer with What a Time to Be Alive and If You're Reading This Is Too Late. There's this new kind of West Indian kind of Drake that we're getting with, you know, Hotline Bling and One Dance, Controlla, you know, his feature on Rihanna's Work. And I feel like those are all various sides of him, and Views kind of brings that all together in a cohesive manner that we've never seen before. This is him really embracing those Toronto roots he has in a way that I think that was dabbled on in his past albums, and Nothing Was the Same most specifically. It was dabbled on, but I feel like it's really solidified, even down to him introducing the patois. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Look at me, I'm half Jamaican, I don't know how to pronounce this stuff. Even, you know, down to him introducing those little subtle things, the slang, the verbiage, you know, just all the references. He's really, you know, embracing his heritage and his culture that he was, you know, was raised in. But also, just like his earlier work, we're getting those soulful roots, you know, from back in the day when he was, you know, down south with his father. We're getting those West Indian roots, you know, that is very present up there in Toronto. So these are various influences that are influencing his sound, and I feel like he's kind of bringing that all together on this particular project. And the reason I say that somebody, you know, the longtime fans are gonna like this album is because they understand, you know, R&B Drake. You know what I mean? We've seen him in you know, this emotional kind of thing, which it feels like it's been a while. Maybe 2013 was the last time, and a lot of people who jumped on in most recent times with Hotline Bling, the people who jumped on this summer during the Trapper Drake, may not understand him. They might have came in this looking for those bars that he does demonstrate on demonstrate, you know, on certain tracks on this particular album, but I don't think he's necessarily spitting. This isn't Illmatic, you know what I mean? He isn't going, you know, incredibly hard throughout the entire project. Again, it's little spotlight moments, and you know, I feel like it would be hard for certain people to digest unless they have the full picture of, you know, who Drake is and what he's actually trying to do with this particular project. So the basic way that I go through my album reviews is I go track by track and give my quick thoughts on each track, and then at the end give my album thoughts. So let's get into these tracks. First one, and we have a monster of an album here, 20 tracks, 19 new ones, and then Hotline Bling as a bonus track. So we got Keep the Family Close. I really like how atmospheric it begins, and it kind of gives you the vibe of how big this album is production wise. And I have to give you know, props to 40, who is a producer that Drake has worked with for a long time now, and I know that he pretty much oversaw all this project. I don't think he necessarily had full, like, I produced this track top to bottom on every track, no, but I know that he had his hands on every track. So shout out to 40, man. He did an absolutely fantastic job kind of, you know, producing this album. So we got Keep the Family Close. Again, beautiful beginning, and then he starts coming in some fantastic soulful vocals, and we have some real hard, it sounds like he has like a live band with him. And again, this, to me, this is what his father instilled to him. But we get some of the cleanliness of like that Toronto sound, but we're getting the soulfulness of that southern sound, those southern roots that he has in him. So then that brings him to 9. Cute little banger. Again, you know, turn the 6 upside down, it's a 9 now or something like that. Really see that. That's basically the quotable of this track for sure. Really interesting instrumental. I feel like it's gonna be a grower on me. The first time I heard it, I wasn't feeling the instrumental. I really liked his kind of like lyrical approach on it. I liked his, you know, flow on this, but I was not feeling this instrumental, and I feel like it's starting to grow on me. It's about as experimental as this album gets, or Drake gets, period. But yeah, you know, it took some time. We got You With Me and Feel No Ways, and this is definitely, and I hate to keep comparing this album to previous albums, but I gotta say that the Views is literally an amalgamation of just all the sides of Drake into one project. And so I gotta say, you know, these next few tracks take me back to 2013, you know what I mean? I'm getting that Nothing Was the Same vibe, that emotion, the narrative, the kind of dialogue back and forth with the females, the very braggadocious nature of Drake, you know what I mean? The very jealous Drake, the questioning, you know what I mean? Like, how can you treat me like this? You know, do you know who I am? Do you know how I could have treated you? You know, you're lucky I wasn't raised in a negative manner, I guess, when it comes to treating, you know, his spouses. A lot of introspective kind of looks. Again, not anything that we've never seen visited by him before, but I think, you know, he did a great job. Then we have the track Hype. The first, I feel like, trap banger on this album. Absolutely love this track. Nothing crazy, you know, fairly standard trap production on there. So, you know, definitely bumps in the car for sure. We got Weston Road Flows. Love this track, man. This is some smooth stuff. I was getting like Ashton Martin music, you know, the Rick Ross track that Drake has a feature on. That was the kind of smooth vibes I was getting on this particular track, so I really enjoyed this. The soulful, you know, R&B vocals on this. We have Redemption that slows this down, man, I gotta say. This is an incredibly low-key track that I feel like would get slept on a lot by people. This is like emotional Drake on 9000. And I gotta make a comment first before I continue. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the term dirty macking, but basically it's what Drake constantly finds the need to do, and it's when you're trying to spit game at a girl, but your game is basically slandering another guy that she's been with, or she knows, or that she's interested in, or whatever. And that's your game, and it's super corny, and Drake continuously does this, and I don't know if he's like perpetuating some kind of character, or is that really what he's about, but we got a lot of dirty macking on this album. Perfect example is Marvin's Room, you know, like, you know, fuck that nigga that you love. Like, he's done it before, and we get it all over this album again. We got With You with Party Next Door. Party Next Door is super I wouldn't say hit or miss. It's more like super middle of the road, and then I like it. You know, there's songs like Recognize. I did peep his project back when he dropped that I thought was pretty good. I really liked Recognize. But some of his features just are super low key. You know, for me, I think they have great chemistry together, but this is one of the more sleeper tracks in my opinion. Not a skippable per se, but nothing necessarily to write home to. Then we got Faithful featuring Pimp C and DVSN. Was so excited to hear this. DVSN, I'm a huge fan of since, you know, he signed to, I guess it's they, since there's a producer and a singer, since they signed to OVO, and they put out a project not too long ago that I highly suggest you check out if you haven't. Big fan of the vocals. You know, DVSN is just absolutely fantastic. And then Pimp C, I was really excited, and I didn't know necessarily how that would come, because I mean DVSN definitely has that very contemporary R&B kind of sound, and Pimp C, you know, you're bringing UGK into modern R&B. So I didn't know exactly how that would meld, but it was actually, I think it was a perfect mix. I've heard some mixed responses to the song, but I think this song is absolutely fantastic. It was great to hear a new Pimp C verse that I've never heard before. And I thought they had, you know, great chemistry together, and it gave it that real southern flair. It kind of really changes pace once, you know, DVSN comes in, just because the intonation and the kind of way DVSN approaches a beat is completely different than the southern kind of, you know, mid-2000s trap style of a Pimp C verse. But I thought, you know, as far as the Drake song is concerned, he did an amazing job. Even masterminding that is really dope. Then we got Still Here, pretty, you know, middle of the road song. I really enjoyed it, but I mean, again, it's nothing mind-blowing. I could see it getting some radio play for sure, and really dope instrumental, but Drake's, you know, performance on this track is pretty straightforward. Then it brings me to Controller, and this is finally where we're gonna start getting that dance hall West Indian kind of Drake stylings, and that's the entry. I love this track, man. This is an amazing dance track. He, you know, brings in that slang. He's really talking that talk. There's some dope vocals on it, and that leads perfectly into One Dance, which is by far my favorite song out of the new singles that he's putting out, and on this album probably. I love One Dance. Shout out to Wizkid and Kyla, man. Really dope seeing, you know, Drake always likes to put artists on, whether he's riding the bandwagon or whether he genuinely wants to give them a chance. I don't know, I couldn't tell you, but I think him, you know, giving Kyla, who's relatively unknown, you know, some spotlight on this album. It's similar, kind of like a Designer on Life of Pablo kind of deal. Really thought it was dope, man. I really love One Dance, man. This track is amazing. Brings me to Grammys with Future. Literally, it feels like a What a Time to Be Alive cut. Like, literally plucked from the album. Didn't make the album, let's put it in here. Think it's cool. Not the best Future song I've ever heard. And this is coming from somebody who I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of What a Time to Be Alive. I feel like it was a lot of hype, and I think it was kind of like formulaic. Like, you take the two biggest rappers of the summer, put them together, and then here you go. It felt like a whole bunch of DS2 throwaways with Drake thrown on them. And yeah, Grammys just felt like a What a Time to Be Alive cut, but I think it's a dope song. I don't know about its placement necessarily. It kind of broke that continuity of the vibe that we're getting on the songs previously to it, but I think it's a decent track. Child's Play, man. Love the what is it? Bounce that shit like, whoa, that part is fire, man. I love this track. Great instrumental. It's moving. It keeps that energy up, and leads perfectly into pop style. And I gotta say, I love pop style. I find the hook a little bit underwhelming, but I love it nonetheless. I was really disappointed to see that, though, he took off the Throne version, so with Kanye and that little, you know, Jay-Z tag. From what I've heard, it didn't necessarily work out in the way he wanted it to either. You know, he probably, from what his Zane Lowe interview said, is that he wanted, you know, full Drake. He would have wanted a full Jay-Z feature too, but it didn't kind of materialize that way. And for some reason, he didn't keep Kanye's verse on there, which I thought was definitely a highlight of the track. That Channing Tatum line, I can't co-sign that one. That's one of the worst lines I've heard in a while now. That Drake, I have to give him an L on that one. But overall, thought it was a solid track. But there was something weird about the mixing of his vocals on the second half. It felt like weird, like thrown together. It didn't match the mixing quality of his first verse. And so I just really wished he kept Kanye on it. Even with the little Jay-Z tag, I thought it was pretty cool. Then it brings Too Good with Rihanna. Great follow-up to, you know, the previous. They have a great like lineup of like songs that they've made together in the past, all the way going back to like What's My Name. We've had Work this year, and now we have Too Good. Fantastic. I love Rihanna's vocals on it, but again, it's pretty much what you'd expect from a Drake Rihanna song. They're not necessarily reinventing the wheel. They're not necessarily showing us something we've never seen before, but I think it really delivers. I think it fits perfectly on this album. And then that brings me to the Summer's Over interlude. Got some soulful vocals here, breaking. It's fine. I love the soulful vibe of it, but this late into the project, it felt kind of weird to throw like a 1.5 minute interlude of soulful vocals in the middle there. I don't know, but I guess it gets you prepped for the next song, Fire and Desire, which is literally like some sex music stuff, like deadass. It's some sex music stuff, like pretty much. I enjoyed it though, nonetheless. Thought it was pretty dope. Then we got Views, man. Love the vocals at the beginning. No. And I know vocalists, I know guys, I'm sorry, but that part is so fire. And then we basically got like a, 9 a.m. in Toronto, 6 a.m. in Dallas. I don't know, whatever those songs, you know what I'm talking about. This is basically that for this album. He ends it off there because after this point it's Hotline Bling. But yeah, man, love Views, man. This is one of the few opportunities I feel like we get some just straight bars from Drake. Definitely, you know, a little vocal stylings on here, but this is the closest we get to him, you know, real spitting on this album. And then yeah, Hotline Bling, you know, the anthem of, you know, last year. Absolutely great. And I'm glad that he popped it in as a bonus track and then really, you know, tried to fit that into the album. However, I mean, if he wanted to put it around Controller and One Dance, he easily could have. So overall, my thoughts on this album, I think it's a pretty dope album. Is it my favorite Drake project? Probably not. I'm more of a I like Take Care better. But you know, who knows? I would love to see how this album ages. What we're gonna think of this in, you know, 1-2 years from now. But gotta say, I enjoyed this album. Did it live up to the hype per se? As someone who has followed Drake for this long, yes, I think so. For people who expected another kind of summer banger trap thing, I would understand why it'd be underwhelming for you. But as somebody who really enjoys Drake singing, who enjoys more R&B kind of side, you know, emotional, introspective kind of Drake, I really enjoyed it, man. I thought it was a solid project. Pretty lengthy, but for a 20-song project, I gotta say that it's a really easy listen. There's other projects I can get into that are not nearly as long as this, that are a nightmare to get through. So shout out to Drake. I think he did a fantastic project. I'm curious as to what y'all thought about it. So in the comment section below, let me know what you thought about this album and what do you think about Drake and period. Till next time, this is JV. I love you guys. Bye.